Okay, today we're going to talk about how Lexus botched the approach angle, ruined the approach angle in the new Lexus GX550. Alright, by now you already know the story. At some point, Lexus decided to add stupid to the front of their car. You're looking at it here. This weird grill nonsense Predator. Everybody knows what it is. I'm not going to bore you with the story. Distinct but subtle. Then they decided to double down on the stupid by making it look even more stupid. And then they decided to triple down on the stupidity by putting this nonsense on a Land Cruiser Prado, the Lexus GX460, an off-road vehicle. One of the very first things we did when we got our GX460 was test how stupid this design actually is, and there you have it. The bumper breaks off. Let's look at it again. Lexus chose, for whatever reason, to ruin the approach angle on their GX460. Apparently, Lexus didn't watch that video of me crashing on purpose the stupid GX460 bumper in a ditch to demonstrate how bad the approach angle was, because the approach angle on the GX550 is 26 degrees. That's right. The GX550 here has an approach angle of 26 degrees. Now you might be thinking, well, Toyota or Lexus had no choice. They just had to have a crappy departure angle, but you gotta realize that all of these TNGAF platforms are vehicles are based on the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport. This vehicle, the real deal Land Cruiser 300 in the world market. This is your mother vehicle for your Tundra, your Tacoma, your LX600, your GX550, your Toyota Sequoia. The list goes on. They're all based on this vehicle. And guess what? Yeah. The mother vehicle has an approach angle of 32 degrees. So this means that Lexus with the GX550 took it upon themselves. They actually sat down and said, you know what? I don't think the GX550 approach angle is crappy enough. Let's take away some more approach angle from the mother vehicle, this 32 degrees, and let's slam it back down to 26 degrees like the old GX460. Yeah, that's a good idea. And so that means they literally sat around at a meeting and decided to add some more garbage of plastic extending, protruding nonsense on the front of this beak in order to bring this approach angle to 26 degrees. The new 2025 Toyota 4Runner, which you see here, is going to have an approach angle of 32 degrees, the same as the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport in the world market. So Toyota knows how to get this right. The Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro, which is also on this TNGAF platform, gets an approach angle of over 35 degrees. At least that's what AI says. Some sources say it's closer to 33 degrees. The point is, it's closer to the 32 degrees of the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport in the world market. So, the point of today's rant is to rant about this. Why on earth does Lexus keep doing this? And the only thing we can deduce is that Lexus, for whatever reason, is addicted to this spindle Predator nonsense grill to establish its, quote, identity and, quote, design language. And that's all good. What Lexus needs to realize is it doesn't belong on their off-roading vehicles, such as this Lexus GX460, because when you take it off-road, for obvious reasons, you're going to smack something. And that's exactly what we did. It's exactly what everybody else does. And it's the first thing that gets cut off or modified or shortened or improved, whatever. You get what I'm saying? It's to increase the approach angle here. And how Lexus didn't learn from the GX460 to not ruin the approach angle is beyond me, because it was a top complaint among reviewers, especially when you keep into context that the predecessor to the GX460, I'm talking about the car, the GX that came before the GX460, the GX470, had an approach angle of something like 30 degrees. That's right. The approach angle on the GX470 was better than the GX460. So think about that for a second. You have the older GX470. The engineers understood that, hey, we shouldn't mess with the approach angle. But for some reason, Lexus couldn't contain themselves with this whole design language trip that they're on. And they had to stick it on an off-road vehicle, a Land Cruiser Prado rebadged as a Lexus. And it's very frustrating that Lexus didn't fix this on the GX550, and you're going to have the same type of complaints and shenanigans. Because the first thing people are going to do is take it off-road, and, you know, it doesn't take an extreme off-road trail to find a ditch like you're seeing here, and you point that big beak down into the ditch, V-notch, whatever you want to call it, and you're going to get, oh, yeah. Now, it's just plastic. It's all good. But when you're spending now $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 on a top-tier off-road vehicle, such as a Lexus GX550, you don't want to deal with this. Now, I'm not saying every off-road vehicle should be turnkey. Obviously, that's not the case. Some modification is necessary, this, that, and the other. But it is astounding that Lexus already had the answer from their Toyota division with the Land Cruiser 300. There's the front bumper hanging off. Look at that. Come on, Lexus. They already had the answer with the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport with its 32-degree approach angle. And they added to that. Meaning they made it longer. They reduced the angle. I know saying these numbers is backwards, but you get my rambling. They ruined the approach angle on purpose. And that's the point here. They specifically chose to screw up the approach angle in order to keep the thing looking pretty. And look pretty it does. It does look pretty. But there's no way that Lexus couldn't have logically kept this Predator nonsense grill face thing. There's no way they couldn't have kept this design language and improved or retained the 32-degree approach angle from the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport and the Tacoma and whatever the heck the Tundra is. I'm sure it's similar. Point is, they could have had this whole design language work and just move this nonsense, this black plastic trim, just move it up a good 6 inches, shrink down this nonsense a good 6 inches in every direction, and make a more turnkey off-roader in the sense of the abysmal approach angle. Now, eventually, of course, we ended up cutting the bumper like everybody does, and it's not specific to any vehicle or SUV. People cut their bumpers to get more approach angle. But this can be mediated. Engineers know what this is, but I think they're at odds with the design department and the marketing department to get these things to look visually appealing. Perhaps they've done some sort of study. Here's A-Track. Boom. Yep, that's better than a locker. If you're triggered by that, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. You just saw it. And no, this is not a flat flat dirt road. This is a Black Diamond Trail. These are the Cleghorn Ridge offshoots. Anyway, that was a tangent on A-Track. But we definitely benefited from having a better approach angle on this trail. And Lexus GX550 buyers, unfortunately, are going to be stuck in the same sort of dilemma. And what I mean by that dilemma is they're going to be forced or obligated to improve their approach angle if they want to do basic, moderate style off-roading. And again, people know what they're getting into. We know what we were getting into. But I'll say this. It was the most tiring thing to have to fix the approach angle on this Lexus GX460, and it's not something I want to do again. It's not fun, in other words. I know some people love to mod. They love to tweak the cars and change this and change. They're just modelholics. But it gets old after a while, because at the end of the day, you're just doing what Lexus should have done from the jump off, which is retain the 32-degree. Oh, here's A-Track again for all the A-Track naysayers. We're going uphill, and the thing is not losing forward momentum. It doesn't figure it out. It doesn't. You just tell it to go, and it goes. Sorry, I'm not gonna rant about A-Track, though I probably will. But anyway, the it gets old. It gets old and tiring. Spending this much on, relatively speaking, of course, on a top tier off road vehicle, and one of the number one things, your approach angle, is ignored for the sake of design and marketing nonsense. And so GX550 buyers are going to have to go through the same thing that we would have to. If we got a Lexus GX550, the first thing we'd have to do is fix that approach angle. So if you get a GX550, or if we got one, we'd have to cut the bumper or put an aftermarket bumper, and that's nonsense that you shouldn't have to do when other offerings, Land Rover, it doesn't matter. You name it, they got better approach angles. And so why Lexus? By the way, you're going to see some A-Track action here. Look at that wheel get off the ground. It slipped back. It lost forward momentum. It needs to figure it out. It doesn't know what it's doing. The actuators are making noise. It's making me nervous. If you know how to just keep your foot on the pedal like you're triple locked, your wheel and tires going to get in the air like you're triple locked, but it's better because it sends up to 50% power to the one wheel that has traction. Did I say this wasn't going to be a track rant? Anyway, so we're just playing around. We're having a casual time. Calm down. So it's just frustrating because you have all these other vehicles in the class. Doesn't matter what we're talking about, domestic, European, other Japanese manufacturer, and worst of all, Toyota's own lineup, where they get the approach angle right. But Lexus is just caught up on this like like a drug addict with this design and this nose and this beak, and you have to do all this other nonsense just to get this thing going. The original 32-degree approach angle tells us that the engineers get it. They understand you're off-roading, and they get it. And I know what somebody's going to say. Nobody's going to take a Lexus off-road. It's just going to go to soccer practice. Too late. They've already been off-road. Especially out here in Southern California, brand new out of the box. It's not a flipping Rolls Royce. It's a Toyota with an L on it. People buy them brand spanking new, like you see here, and they take them off-road. Period. End of story. Nothing delicate. Someone once said, I would be afraid of getting the interior dirty because it's so delicate. There's nothing delicate about leather or whatever New Lux fake leather is in here. We off-road these because the materials inside are more durable. You know how welders wear leather when they have sparks flying at them? Same idea. The luxury interior is actually more rugged and capable and able to handle mud in a filthy interior and being ruined all the time, and it's exactly what we do, and it holds up. We off-road these things. And Lexus knows it because we have a Lexus GX over-trail trim. So they knew the over-trail trim, which you see here covered in mud with all-terrain tires, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they knew this was supposed to go off-road, but they couldn't take it upon themselves to take a good 6 to 10 inches off of this thing and put a normal bumper and still shrink down this design, even if it was just for the over-trail trim here. Yeah, back to that interior for a second here. You know, here we are splashing through mud, and you can get all the mud flying in. Look at this. This is going to shower mud right there through the sunroof, all over the seats. It's all good. Who in the world said leather was somehow delicate? Who started that rumor? So there's no argument in this whole nobody's going to take a Lexus off-road, blah, 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 blah. They said the same thing in the world market, by the way, about the Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport. Nobody's going to take the Land Cruiser off-road. That's just a soccer mommy mobile. Yeah, well, guess what? When you can't afford something, suddenly it becomes a soccer mommy mobile. That's how you deal with it. It's called Orwellian doublethink or cognitive dissonance. The reality is these suckers are going off-road. They're Land Cruiser 300 GR Sports without the front locker and about 49 horsepower missing. The rest is that Land Cruiser 300 GR Sport, except they botched again the approach angle. And it's time for Lexus to just stop with this, meet us halfway. People want to take these things off-road, but as a Lexus GX buyer, and I know others feel the same way, the least amount of cutting and chopping and modding just to clear the plastic nonsense, the less of that we have to do, the happier we are, and the sooner we can get off-road like you see here in the mud and the rain and this, that, and the other. So I hope Lexus listens to the criticism about these angles. We don't need this stupid Predator design anymore. It's played out, it's whack, it's old, it never really was anything. People just kind of got used to it like a toothache. Yeah, like a toothache. Okay, Lexus? Are you listening? Listen! The Predator face is like a toothache. We just tolerate it until we could yank it out. That's called an extraction. And this is what we're doing here, Lexus. This is what everybody has to do with their Lexus off-road vehicles. The bumper has to come out, and we have to put some Chinese-made aftermarket nonsense because of this insidious, demonic, satanic Predator face nonsense that you insist has to be on off-road vehicles. Okay, we have to extract this in order to have fun. This is what your buyers actually do, Lexus. This is the reality. At least the ones that take them off-road. But as we mentioned earlier, for the Overtrail GX550, I get it. People are going to stay on road. Most people will stay on road with their Lexus GX550s. But you made an Overtrail. You made an off-road trim. A specific, we're going to take it off-roading trim. So you need to get rid of this crap here that you carried over from this generation here. And you need to offer a 32-degree approach angle at minimum. Our GX460 had about 2,000 miles when we had to do this. Put blue tape on it and start cutting the plastic nonsense off of it. And at the price point of the Overtrail Plus, it just shouldn't be something that should be happening in the year 2024. This has got to be fixed. This has got to be something that Lexus does right out of the box here. So I do think I've ranted enough, but this is the #1 complaint with Lexus, actual Lexus GX owners that off-road their Lexus GXs. in the off-road trim. I think it is beyond fair, meaning the over-trail trims, it is beyond fair for Lexus to offer a solution to this botched approach angle, and I hope in the future Lexus is listening to these complaints and simply goes back to the designer and puts back the 32-degree approach angle or better.